Hey, mama. So, if you have been hanging out with me on the podcast here for a while, then you know I am a firm believer in building a life first business. And this is honestly why my motto is build a business that fits your current season of life. When you are ambitious and driven and love what you do, it is so easy to become consumed with running your business and honestly dedicating every free moment to it. I'm saying this because I have been there. And the thing is that not prioritizing the things that matter most will lead to feelings of guilt and running yourself into the ground. And so in today's episode, I'm sharing 3 things I've done to build a life first business. All right, let's jump into today's episode. Hey, mama. Are you tired of feeling stressed and overwhelmed trying to grow your online business with your babies at home? You desire more flexibility in your day, allowing you to pour into your family, yourself, and your business without running yourself into the ground. Mama, you can build your dream business and do it in a way that fits your current season of life. And I'm going to show you exactly how. Welcome to the Mama Turned Mompreneur podcast. I'm your host, Andria Singletary, daughter of the king, wife, mama of 2, and life and business coach for mompreneurs. On this podcast, you will learn business strategies made for mamas just like you, who desire to be successful CEOs and fully present mamas without stress or overwhelm. So whether you're an entrepreneur who transitioned to a mompreneur or a mama turned mompreneur, I am here to support you. So grab your coffee, notebook, and pen, put in those earbuds, and let's dig in. Okay, so before we get into the 3 things I've done to build a life first business, I want to remind you that next month I'm hosting a free masterclass all about building a visibility strategy that fits your current season of life. Now, the 3 visibility strategies that I will be teaching you how to leverage in your business are ones that I've used to help me build a life first business. These strategies are low effort and perfect for the mama who needs a simple way to get visible and market her business. So you can head on over to mamaturnedmompreneur.com/masterclass to register for this masterclass. It's also linked below in the episode description and over in the show notes. Okay, so before I get into the 3 things that I did to build a life first business, I really want to kind of set the stage for you guys. So after I transitioned to a mom of 2, my time and capacity was reduced significantly. It was such a drastic change. And although I started my business while I was pregnant with my second, I still had way more time and energy compared to after, having her, after she was out of the womb and doing her own thing. And between client work and trying to be a present mama, a present wife, navigating, life with a newborn and a toddler, and just all of the other things that I had going on, I realistically could not, create content for Instagram at the same frequency I was before. I really needed to find a sustainable way to get visible that wouldn't require so much of my time or energy. And so at this time, I started trying out, different things. And one of the first things I decided to give a try was guesting on podcasts. I still remember the first podcast I guested on. It's the Life Unboxed blog podcast with Jody Perry. And what has stuck with me since that first podcast interview I ever did was how during the interview, I was literally holding my newborn baby girl. And even at some point, I nursed her, while I was recording that interview. It also just felt so easy to talk about who I am and what I do and who I serve and really just demonstrate my expertise and not, be tied to the constraints of oh, I only have this short amount of time to capture my audience's attention and different things like that. And the other thing was too is that like I didn't have to do any of the post production, like other than sharing about the episode once it went live. Like there wasn't much on my part afterwards because like if you think about it with Instagram Reels, unless you have a social media manager or someone on your team who's going to do the editing and stuff for you, you have to take the time to edit it, whether it's cutting down the video, whether it's finding, trending audio or adding in, like the different parts that you're going to like type in into like it's just so much more that goes into it. Like you're not just done once you record, that video for your reel. Like there's the post production part too. And so that was one of the reasons why I was like really like, okay, I can do this podcast guesting thing. Like I just got to show up, wow the audience, give them all the value, infuse my personality, and, have somewhere to direct them so they can continue this conversation with me. And it was just so low effort. And I was able to have my baby girl like right there with me while I recorded this piece of content. And so from that point on, I really focused on other ways I could simplify my business so that it didn't require more of my time or attention than I realistically had available, that I realistically was able to give in that season of my life. And so I started leveraging non-social media visibility strategies. And I also did a couple of other things to truly build a life first business. So here's specifically what I did and continue to do. So like I said, first I started prioritizing visibility strategies off socials. And so kind of talking about like what that consists of. So my non-social media visibility strategy, and this is like outside of my podcast, outside of like blogging, I'm not talking about those things right now. So basically, my visibility strategies focus on podcast guesting, speaking engagement. So, like speaking at summits, conferences, speaking in private communities, and bundle collaborations. I will make sure to link a few episodes that I have. Like, I actually have a Get Visible Off Socials podcast playlist. So, one of the things just to kind of throw in there, when you guys register for the masterclass and you get that confirmation email, it links to that playlist. And I kind of like I put in the email to start listening to it because it's gonna kind of like prepare you for the masterclass, because the strategies that I talk about in that playlist are the ones that we're going to be diving into on a deeper level, like really talking about how to create a strategy for those different visibility strategies, if that makes sense. But how to really leverage those strategies to actually sign clients, to actually attract the right people, start getting inquiries, start, getting these people into your world that you can nurture them further and convert them into clients. So that's really what we're going to be diving into in the masterclass. But those are the 3 visibility strategies off socials that I focus on. And the reason why that each of these are effective is that the podcast that you're guesting on, the speaking engagements that you're getting, whether it's at a conference, a virtual summit, in a private community, the bundles that you are participating in, the people who are hosting these things, they are essentially telling their audience that you are the go-to person for this specific thing. You are being highlighted in front of these people's audiences. You're getting in front of a new audience. And so that is why they're effective. You're not having to go out there and create content to attract this audience and then create content to nurture this audience and then create content to convert this audience. You are bypassing some of that in that you're getting in front of the audience that's already been established, and you are starting that nurturing process, whether you're guesting on the host podcast or you're speaking at their event or you are participating in a bundle. And with these types of things, like especially like looking more at like the speaking engagements and the bundle collaborations, because it's a lot of people coming together, you're getting in front of multiple audiences. So you are pretty much like 10xing that visibility. You're getting in front of a bunch of people in a single instance. To kind of give you guys like a snapshot, I recently spoke at a summit. And so this summit, it had some big names. And just to kind of throw some of the names out there, some of the speakers were Liz Wilcox, Kate Doster, if you guys are familiar with Stephanie Gass. And so I got in front of these women who they are 6-figure plus business owners. I got in front of their audiences. And from that single summit, I had almost 200 people join my email list. And it was just a week-long summit. And all I did was ahead of the summit, I got on a call with the host, recorded my portion for the summit. And then I offered a free resource. And then I also offered, for those who upgraded to the VIP pass, I offered one of my normally paid resources. That is from a single summit. So in a week, I almost got 200 new leads. And I pre-recorded my portion for the summit. I think it was about a month before the summit went live. Do you know how low energy that is? It wasn't me posting content daily on Instagram. It wasn't me showing up on stories daily on Instagram. It wasn't me recording reels. It was literally pre-recording a summit, and then my only responsibility was to post and share about the summit with my community, and all of the like copy that was already given to me. The graphics were already given to me. I just had to essentially like in ConvertKit schedule out those emails. And then I did post to my stories. That was it. That is the epitome of low energy, low effort. And so I essentially gained almost 200 new leads without having to really be away from my family. I think it was on a Saturday, I recorded my portion, and that took me we set aside about an hour for it. That was it. That was it. This is why I'm so passionate about these strategies. As moms, our time and capacity are limited. Realistically, especially when you are in the thick of motherhood from that like 0 to 5 age range, I'll even say push it to kind of like 7, when they're still really that little and very dependent upon you, or even if you're homeschooling, you have to be strategic in what you focus on in your business and what you do in your business. You don't have time to be sitting, recording, and editing stuff for reels. You don't have time to be showing up on Instagram daily in order to generate leads at the capacity or the amount that you would like realistically need to in order to make sales in your business. So I'm going to get off my soapbox here. I'm all about this. And like I said, in the masterclass, we are going to be diving into these strategies and really looking at how you can leverage it for your business, the things you need to be considering, because I know some of you are thinking like, well, I've guested on podcasts and I've never signed a client from it. There are things that you need to do in order to see these strategies work for you. And that's what we're going to be digging into. I'm not just going to be telling you, oh, these are the strategies. No, I'm going to tell you how to actually leverage them so that you can start generating leads and income from these low effort visibility strategies. Okay, so that was the first thing I have done to build a life first business, is prioritize visibility strategies off social media. The next thing is that I asked my husband for help. Now, I know that's not profound and different things like that, but for the longest, I did not ask him for help. I did not ask him to do more. And then I was just sitting there frustrated because I expected him to be a mind reader and be able to, pick up the slack and whatnot so that I could focus more on my business. And so I sat down with him, and I've talked about this in other episodes. I'll make sure to link them too. But I sat down with him and I told him, hey, I really want to have a dedicated day once a week where I just focus solely on my business. Meaning you're responsible for the kids. You feed them, you change diapers, you do all of the things that I normally do. We decided on Saturdays because during the week, he works very long hours. Sundays, we have church. We're getting ready for the week. We do grocery shopping, laundry, all of those things. So we have dedicated Saturdays. Now, there are some Saturdays where it doesn't work out. Like, for instance, yesterday, we went out to LA for his best friend. It was best friend's birthday. He had this whole event planned. And so we went to that, which was totally fine. So, anyways, I had that conversation with him. And so I now have a weekly CEO day. And when we have something come up on a Saturday, it may shift to I do it on a Sunday or only get a half day, or I somehow incorporate it during the week. But essentially, every Saturday, I know that I get my CEO day. And so that is where I can focus on what I need to focus on in my business, get ahead in everything. And so that way, during the week and on Sundays, I am that present mama and present wife that I want to be. I can be all in with my family and different things like that. The other thing is that I also asked him to help out more with like some of the household responsibilities. So like, for instance, I've said this before, he cooks dinner for us during the week. Like that's his thing. He usually does it on Sundays and like will cook enough for the week for us. He also takes care of the kids' nighttime routine. So like when he gets home, he takes over. I go take my nice bubble bath where I get to relax. And then if I have a little bit of work to do in the evening, I'll do that too. But he takes care of all of that. And then, especially like if I'm in the middle of a launch or a major project, he does even more. But I communicated to him. I let him know what I need. I let him know what's coming and everything. So that way we're on the same page. So that was the second thing that I did. The third thing I have done to build a life first business is learning how to say no. And this one is hard. This one is hard, especially for me, a former people pleaser. It's hard. So like, for instance, when I have people reach out to me about collaborations, and if I'm already feeling swamped, if I'm already feeling like I have enough on my plate, I cannot realistically add more, I will decline those collaborations. Or even collaborations where it's a person who maybe has like a really large audience, but it's not my ideal audience, I'll decline it because it doesn't make sense. Like I'm not going to take on something that realistically isn't going to benefit me. And like before, I used to kind of feel bad for it because I'm like, man, they're reaching out to me. Like, what if something comes up in the future where it would make sense for us to collaborate, but they may be upset that I said no this time. And I've learned to let that go. Like, I know a lot of times we create these narratives in our minds when people aren't even thinking like that. They're not even bothered that you said no or whatever. So I've just learned to say no to things that just don't make sense for me. Even like certain projects where like it was just too much on my plate. Like there have been times where it was just a really challenging season of life. And I had people inquire about podcast launches and I wasn't doing them then. And so I would refer them to someone else. And people may be like, well, you're passing up money. Yeah, maybe, but at least I have my peace of mind. At least I have my sanity. You know, I'm not going to run myself into the ground to bring in more income that I'm not even going to enjoy because I'm over here having a mental health crisis because I'm stretching myself too thin. So I've really learned how to say no to those things. And even saying no to creating new offers, I don't realistically have the capacity to execute. So like last year, I launched my podcasting for business accelerator. And the idea was to keep it going. But after going through that first round, it was a lot. It was a lot on me. And maybe one day in the future, I will revive it. I don't know. But in this current season of life, I just don't realistically have the capacity to commit to something like that for such a long time. So essentially, it's just really learning how to say no. And it's hard if you are a recovering people pleaser, but I promise you, it makes a world of a difference. It gives you so much peace of mind, and it really allows you to build a business that revolves around your life, where this business isn't running you, isn't determining your availability to your family. So there you have it, mama. Like, those were the 3 things that I have done and continue to do to build a life first business. If you had an aha moment or you are ready to simplify your visibility strategy, that's exactly what we're going to be diving into during the Build a Visibility Strategy That Fits Your Current Season of Life masterclass. So, like I said, during the masterclass, we're going to dive into those 3 low effort visibility strategies that I talked about earlier. But even more so, you are going to have a full understanding of how to leverage these visibility strategies to generate leads and income. Because that's what's most important, right? Most of you guys are familiar with these different types of strategies. And since most of you have probably even tried one, possibly all 3, but maybe you didn't see results from it. And so there are things that you can do to really utilize these things to your best interest, to really see those results, to see that return from it. Because there are mistakes that you're probably making that you're not even aware of. So we're going to be digging into all of that. So that way you'll know going forward what you actually need to be doing. So that way you are signing clients from these podcast interviews, from these speaking engagements, from these bundle collaborations. So head on over to mompreneur.com/masterclass to sign up for this masterclass. Like I said, it is completely free. So grab your spot. This is also linked below in the episode description and in the show notes. All right, mama, I'll catch you in the next episode. Well, mama, that's a wrap on today's episode. Thank you so much for taking time out of your busy day to hang with me. If you enjoyed today's episode, will you do me a favor and follow the podcast and leave a review? Hitting that follow button and sharing your thoughts about the podcast are the best ways to ensure that other mamas like you find this show. Your review also lets me know if you're enjoying this podcast, so make sure to share your thoughts before you go. All right, mama, I'll catch you in the next episode.